Hey, and welcome to our first Group Up with Me. This is our group up here. I already forgot what it was called.
Group up with me.
Group Up with
Tentative
Me.
title.
This is our Hungover Media, really, presents Group Up here, Group Up with Me. We'll decide on what it is. This is going to be our Overwatch League, at least to start with, our Overwatch League esports podcast slash show. We're going to really break down and get into all the exciting things about Overwatch League as an esport, and specifically in Blizzard's own Overwatch League. And maybe we'll branch out into some other esports or other things that catch us down the line, especially with some big tournaments. We might have some special episodes. But for now, we're going to focus on Overwatch League and Stage 2. My name's Ivan over there.
I'm Julien. Welcome to the show, guys.
Group up with me. Yeah, I'm excited. How are you feeling?
I'm very excited. We have a long list of things to go over because we're going to be recapping the first stage of Overwatch League. It's going to be exciting.
Can we just start by saying that all of the terminology in Overwatch League is as difficult as watching the games themselves?
Yes, absolutely. Especially, yeah. Oh my god, so dumb. Is it dumb?
It's a season that's broken up into stages that have playoffs in the stages, which are called stage finals, but also has its own playoffs. And then what are they called? They're maps and matches.
And then there's ties, and then the tiebreaker. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, so Overwatch League has some very specific terminology. So we're going to review Season 1's Stage 1, and we're going to bring you some highlights right now.
Yeah.
Left in midair. There it is, right there. Yep, as we can see, and there comes the self-destruct. Instant. They can locate it, they're going to find it, and he gets it!
Are you kidding me? Oh man, I could not be more pumped for this 4-map set right now. Soul Diamond
Crowd!
Dallas
Crowd! You can't chant USA when there's one American player on the Dallas Fuel.
Pine, Big Boss Pine is on the scene. Just that, Pine a little bit on his own here. Oh, but he takes Clockwork out as he comes in. There's another one of Linkser. Here's the hard carry. Gets Benny with the Deadeye, and there's another one. Pine.
So that was a pretty exciting Stage 1. We have a Stage 1 Finals winner. Who are they?
The Stage 1 Finals winner was an all-Korean team from London, actually.
That's
surprising.
a pretty funny thing, yeah. And they were playing against the all-Korean team from
New York.
New York Excelsior.
Yeah.
So it was interesting that despite all of the talk about teams winning and losing throughout the season, it ended up with 2 Korean teams. But how did we get there?
Surprise.
So, the first week of Overwatch saw over 10 million people tuning in to watch on Twitch or through Blizzard's own app. And it's an amazing thing to see that this kind of young game and young esports network is really combining to see such big growth. And we didn't see too much drop-off throughout the course of this stage.
Yeah, I think the first day of Overwatch League, there was something like over 100,000 viewers, and then I watched every now and then. I couldn't see every match, but I think it never really dropped below 90,000 viewers, if I'm not mistaken. But I think those numbers might be wrong also. So
In any case, there were a lot of viewers and people tuning in for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or to
Yeah.
watch their favorite teams play. I know I also wasn't able to catch a lot of the games, but I caught a lot of the games from teams that I wanted to see. And what was really nice is to have those videos on demand to go back and watch. Let's say Philly Fusion is playing New York Excelsior. You're like, well, that's an easy win for New York Excel. Philly is a strong team, but they're too disorganized to actually get through. Then Fusion has that upset, and you go back and you get to watch all of the ways in which Fusion took back the win from New York Excel. It's an interesting way of being able to come back, even if you're not watching it live. And I wonder what those viewer statistics are for those video on demands.
I'm sure it's quite high as well.
Yeah.
Not everyone can watch these, and a lot of people definitely wanted to watch the matches. Specifically, I'm guessing maybe foreign viewers that are not in the United States. This is obviously took place in the United States, so it's in American time zones. So yeah.
Especially if people in Korea or
Yeah.
China, let's say, were trying to watch their teams. It's interesting, but an article released by ESPN right towards the end of stage one, close to the playoffs or just after the playoffs finals, said that some league sources said that they were almost 4 times as profitable as they thought they would be by now.
That
It's really
very impressive.
Yeah, that is super large margins to go for it. And they were saying that the initial buy-in for each of these teams was about $20 million.
Really?
And they were saying that, yeah, with the expanded teams, as the league is supposed to expand in the coming seasons for sure, it might go up from 60 to 90 million was the projections that could have been possible.
Jeez.
Which is interesting because they already had a deal on the table for a 13th team just before the season, but weren't able to finalize it. It was the owner of the Milwaukee Bucks who wanted to start this 13th team. And you see this historical perspective of the rich, team owners from America just expanding on their team ownership in terms
Right.
of esport. You got Robert Kraft in Boston with the Boston Uprising. The guy who owns the Mets.
I'm
is
really
the
surprised it wasn't the
XL.
Yankee. What's his name? Steinbrenner, I think.
He's dead, right, man?
Yeah, well, I made that up. I'm surprised it wasn't him rolling over in his grave to send some money towards Overwatch League. That's all I'm saying.
Solid point.
Yes.
He needs that Reaper juice. So our stage one standings were pretty interesting to look at. As we see, the top of the charts was New York Excel, but number 2 wasn't a Korean team. It was the Houston Outlaws. Do any of the things in the standings stick out to you?
Yeah, well, specifically the Houston Outlaws. I didn't really think they were much of a contender towards being. They sort of just. I think they sort of got up to second place towards the end of the league, if I'm not mistaken. They weren't.
Yeah, it was on the last day.
Literally
that
the last
they
day.
made it there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. So I'm surprised that London is in third, given how well they performed towards the end of the league as well. So
And Seoul all the way down in 5th.
that's probably the most. I mean, aside from Shanghai Dragons, of course, But I think Seoul being in 5th is probably they were thought to be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league, just going into the first day. So them in 5th is a huge upset, I guess, in some ways.
I think so, yeah, because I think a lot of the players that are on Seoul, we knew them from things like the Apex League or from the Korean Overwatch Cup team, and they were supposed to be the giants of the field, especially Ryu Jaehong, the support player who is an Ana god and a support specialist. But we might see some changes to the standings and positions as well when we go forward. For me, a couple of the things that I thought were interesting, beyond the obvious Koreans not being 1, 2, 3, was the Dallas Fuel being so low. I had really high expectations for the Dallas Fuel coming in. They had a lot of really good players. I know, like Seagull, for instance.
Exactly
and
right. He's very popular on Twitch.
Yeah, Siegel was the first Overwatch World Cup. It was him and Shadowburn that were basically going at each other to come out on top as DPS players from non-Korean countries.
Right.
And they had a lot of really talented players like Taimu and Mickey, and I really was surprised by how poorly Dallas Fuel started
Oh my God.
started the season. The other surprise for me was Boston Uprising and Philly Fusion coming together. Boston is a really strong team, actually. They're really, really good.
Yeah, they played quite well. All the matches I saw of them, I was pretty impressed. Me being such a good Overwatch player, I look down at these people.
Yeah, they had a really versatile DPS in Dream Casper, and their teamwork extended beyond just that dive comp which they started the season with. So I think that they were exciting not only because they came together as a team in terms of communication, especially some language barriers might have been there with their Korean support or tank players, etc. But they came together, and I think were a really strong team to play against. I mean, they beat New York. Who did they beat? New York Excel or
No, they
or
didn't
one
beat
Spitfire?
NYXL. I don't think. Didn't It was just Philly Fusion that beat NYXL.
Yeah,
And
Philly
London.
beat NYXL, and then Boston Uprising
Must have
beat
been
the Spitfire.
Spitfire, yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty impressive as a showing.
And
But,
conveniently, they have the same initials as Boston University. Feel like that's someone somewhere thought of that for a reason.
yeah, for sure. Robert Kraft is sitting there.
Yeah.
What do we call them? No, he's more concerned about the Patriots losing the Super Bowl.
Oh.
So, in terms of some of the things that we're going to see changing in Stage 2, we've got a lot of transfers. You want to read through some of them?
Yeah, sure. So in Shanghai, I guess the biggest thing is not actually a transfer between teams, but there's a woman, the first woman or female Overwatch League player, Kim Gigori, is Seiyun, is going to be signed to the Shanghai Dragons, which is huge.
That-
She's a
that is
Zarya
pretty
player.
big.
If I'm not, I mean, aside from being a Zarya main, that's pretty crazy. But being the first female Overwatch League player is a feat in its own, and I
sure.
applaud her to fighting her way up to the top, even though it's actually the bottom because she's signing on to the Shanghai Dragons. But at least
Yeah,
she's
there was
in,
some
on a
rumor
team.
that she might sign with like NYXL and or another Korean team, but she is going to Shanghai Dragons.
Yeah.
If you don't remember the stories about her viewers, this was one of the players from Korea who people, after they saw her play in one of the matches, they said that she was cheating. So
Right,
she set up a
exactly.
stream which showed her playing her keyboard and showed that she was doing everything fairly, and that it forced like some Korean pro players to quit, basically, because they were like, if she's doing this for real, I quit, and one of them did. So
Well,
that
at
was
least
pretty
they
impressive.
stayed true to their word.
Yeah. So what other transfers do we have? Signings, things like that.
Also on Shanghai, we have Lee Fearless. I can't pronounce his name. Eo Suk. He's an off-tank player, so he's playing characters such as, I guess, Diva and I guess Winston as well.
Yeah.
Right. So he's not going to be playing. He doesn't play Reinhardt or Orisa, but he plays Diva and Winston. So that's also on Shanghai. So Shanghai, I believe they have the majority of the changes because they clearly didn't win any game, so they need to make the most changes. So, what do you think about this guy here as an
I don't really
off-tank?
know them, but they also signed like Ado, who is another Korean player. He's a projectile DPS, and they signed a Chinese player who is a support. So it looks like they're restocking their team as much as possible going into Stage 2. And I think as a group, we can just say that it's good to get more talent. And the interesting thing here is that I don't know much, but from what I've read about like Ado and Fearless, they were okay, not great, but they got left behind, and so now they're being picked up by a team. But the interesting thing is that this Chinese player, Sky, comes from the best Chinese team in from the Chinese Overwatch League.
Oh,
So
really?
he
Okay.
plays a support. I think he focuses on Lucio.
Nice.
Um,
That's pretty big.
but
Well,
it's going to be
we'll
important
get
to.
into whether or not Lucio is going to be too important, I think, later when we talk about the new map pool um, coming up
Yeah.
in stage 2. Of course, there are going to be
Yeah.
different maps in stage 2. So
And if you remember how the Shanghai Dragons played, one of their biggest weaknesses was that the support players would get taken out super fast
right,
and at the beginning of any team fight, and that would leave the tanks dying too quickly, and then undead and other players wouldn't be able to make sure that they were finishing their kills and
right.
things like that. So
I remember frequently Zenyatta would just go down just like that. I think Free Feel plays the Zenyatta on Shanghai Dragons. I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken.
so I didn't watch a lot of Shanghai Dragons because they didn't impress me at all.
No, no, not at all.
But the problem is that they might miss the start of stage 2 anyway because the visa issues, as always,
That
a problem.
sucks. God
in
damn it,
terms of getting
America. Just let the people
international
in.
players. I know.
Do they have work? What is the visa for working? I forget the number, but it's very difficult to get, I assume. You have to prove that you're here to play video games.
I don't know, man. It's gotta be a really difficult visa procedure for
know.
like esports. I know that was one of the reasons that a lot of players, especially Chinese, and I think some Russian players are having troubles obtaining visas in order to come to BlizzCon for the Overwatch World Cup. So it's not the first time that visa issues have been a problem for Overwatch Pro players, and we'll see how Blizzard works it out, how the league works it out so that we can get those players in so that Shanghai Dragons isn't just failing at the bottom.
Yeah, I should hope so because that's really unfortunate for them and also for Gigori, who has yet to prove herself, which I'm sure she will.
Yeah, I'm excited
yeah.
to see her play. But we'll see also how she gets put in as a... Will she start? Will she be a sub at first?
She's
Coming off
probably,
the bench?
I'm guessing as a Zarya main, she's probably only going to be used in specific situations. So we'll
She'll
see.
come face Big Boss Pine
Yeah, exactly. She'll destroy him, or will she?
on those control maps.
Probably not. Pine is
So
amazing.
another team that had a very tough stage 1 was the Florida Mayhem.
Exactly. Yeah, they had only 6 players at the start of the season, so that was real rough. So there was no room for error. If someone had any sort of problem or if they weren't playing well on a certain day, they're in, and that's it.
Yeah, and they had no ability to change up tactics or anything. We saw like London Spitfire being able to switch up their entire team based on whatever the map is and whatever the team needs to change to. New York Excel has awesome DPS players who can come in on control like Pine, but if you don't have those additions, it's really hard. So what's Mayhem done to remedy that?
They are going to be signing 3 people. So they're going to have a total of 9 players. They're going to sign Junus, Zappis. I mean, do these names even have actual pronunciations? I'm not sure.
These are hard. We can just go with their gamer tags because that's probably what they're going to be
Zappis.
known by.
Zappis is going to be playing. He plays Tracer, which is awesome. Tracer is the Tracer mains in the Overwatch League have really been racking up a lot of kills. And
Saviolbe soon.
Yeah,
those guys.
They're being a good Tracer in this league and also in general is an amazing. It's not only very difficult, but you'll see if you watch any of the Tracers play, you see they're very, very conservative in how they play, and they're not gonna dash in just willy-nilly. They always know that they have an exit strategy and they can get in, do their damage, and get out. So that's gonna be Zappis's job on the Mayhem. We also have and
they'll team up with characters like players like Tavik to make sure that he's doing that.
Oh, Tavik is awesome.
So, but Zappis also is unique in that he can flex onto tank and or support.
Oh, cool. That is incredibly useful. So if he's not doing enough DPS, he'll probably switch off. Something that doesn't happen in our games, unfortunately.
Yeah. No.
So next up we have Platter. That
player should be player.
Platter.
Yeah, my bad.
Oh, sorry. We've got a typo on our Google Docs. Player. He's a Korean DPS, so they're signing on I think their first Korean player. Clearly, the Koreans are very good at video games, and Overwatch is not one of their weak suits. It's clearly a game that they love to play. So there's yet another Korean player. Why not just get rid of all the American and European players? Just get rid of them.
That is if you look at what these transfers are, it is the kind of a thing where you see a lot of Korean players being stacked up, and if you look at the standings, generally the more Korean players you have, the better you do.
Right.
The one exception being the Houston Outlaws, which I think has a couple maybe Korean players, but Los Angeles Valiant in 4th place, fields 3, I think, Korean players.
Mm-hmm.
Uprising has a couple. Philly Fusion has DPS tandem Carpe, who is Korean, and Shadowburn, who is Russian. And then you also have 1st, 3rd, and 5th, who are all Korean teams. So it seems like teams are looking to fulfill the roster improvement through South Korean players.
Yep. Well, next up, we also have another Korean player on Mayhem. Awesome guy. He plays tank, so he's a tank main, so that's pretty awesome for them. It's always useful to have another tank player, I think, especially when sometimes they like to dive in with a quad tank. We've seen played a lot, so having another tank player is incredibly useful. Yeah, on certain maps, obviously. So moving on, we have two players coming back in. Well, one coming back in for the Dallas Fuel, which is the obvious return of XQC. He said some bad words, and so he got banned from the Overwatch League or he got suspended for an entire stage on Dallas Fuel. But he's coming back. He's been streaming a lot. I know you, Ivan, have been watching him. I've watched him a couple times. He's a very good player, obviously.
Yeah, I enjoy. My Orisa play has improved tremendously by watching him, right? And how he uses the abilities,
the halt and things. Yeah, he's obviously, you gotta aim as well. So, but you've been working on your aim. Your aim is pretty good now. Sure. Which is awesome. So XQC does play Orisa on stream. I'm not sure who he's gonna tend to play on, and he also plays Winston as well. I've seen him play Winston a lot. So I believe he's a tank main, if I'm not mistaken, but I can't say that for sure.
Yeah, XQC is a tank main, known for being a little bit too he's crazy in terms of his decision making. He's very aggressive, yeah.
Well, that's why he likes Winston. But
that dive
we also have Dylan AKM Bignett being signed on. He's a hit scan DPS for Dallas.
He's a French player,
a French player.
He's
Bigny. Sorry, there's no T.
Benet.
Oh, you don't even pronounce the G then?
No, it's French.
God
you don't pronounce anything.
Just ends and the first letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he comes from the pro team Rogue, which disbanded, and it had players like Soon and Unko, who went to the LA Valiant. Mm-hmm. Tavik went to Mayhem. IDDQD went to San Francisco Shock, and one of the other players went to the analyst desk, but Benet didn't get signed anywhere, so now he's going to be signed to the Dallas Fuel to bolster their DPS. With Effect and Taimu, AKM might be able to push them to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of getting and finishing kills. I know that there was a little bit of I don't know how to exactly phrase it, but I thought that the Dallas Fuel roster was a little bit tight in a lot of spots and could have used some more flexibility to bring some more tactics. Like we saw some really cool things in terms of running multiple tanks, 3 or 4 tanks from Fuel, and hopefully signing this DPS will help create that level of competition and rise them from the bottom third of the table.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty crazy, man. What can I say? So do you think XQC and AKM are going to make a huge impact on the Fuel?
We'll see. The Fuel has some bigger issues than that, but I also don't know how AKM plays, and having XQC back will, I think, be good. I think one of the things that I think that it could be better in terms of being more flexible in their roster spots. So the more players you have, obviously, the more flexibility you have, as long as they're of given quality. And because they're being pro players signed, I'm sure they're all excellent quality.
Okay.
So I think that being a little bit more deep will have a lot more tactics being drawn, and especially when we get into the new maps that we're going to see and the new meta that we'll see.
Okay. Well, moving on, we have the Outlaws. The Houston Outlaws have signed on again, or they brought on FCTN. Is there a way to pronounce that? Fact function.
I don't know really.
If I had to guess, it's like fact function, but
no, that's
maybe.
Good...
Who knows? It's probably just
yes.
letters, like the guy we played in PUBG with.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's just letters. But this guy is he's very famous Overwatch player because he was in the USA World Cup, Overwatch World Cup, which is pretty big move. So that's a huge grab for the Outlaws, and I think he plays tank. He's a tank main, so that's another flexible character in their roster now, so that's good.
Yeah, and he's also going to be joining up with former teammates from his pro team, or his contenders team, I guess it was actually. So he'll be joining Raucus, who is also on the USA World Cup team, who plays support for Outlaws, and Spree, who plays DPS.
Nice.
So yeah.
Very big.
And then we got a bunch of rumors. So most of the biggest ones are the two teams, the LA Gladiators and the Dallas Fuel, are attempting to sign away some Korean players from the Stage 1 finals winners, the London Spitfire. The Gladiators are rumored to be trying to sign over tank player Fissure, and the Fuel are trying to get Rascal to come over from the London Spitfire and bolster their DPS as well, to join up with AKM and Seagull and Tymoon Effect. So those are interesting rumors. We haven't had anything for sure, and I think it might be difficult to get those things done before the start of Stage 2, which I don't know for sure because this kind of is up in the air in terms of how this schedule lands with the signings, but I don't think that teams will be able to make trades mid-stage. So we've only got a few days left, and at the time of this recording, and by the time this comes out, you'll already know whether or not it happened.
God damn it.
So the other things that we have are New York XL and Seoul Dynasty will be adding most likely a couple more players, which is great for New York XL that they're just going to be expanding their team of excellent players. After winning Stage 1, they're going to sign a Lucio specialist in Animo, and the Seoul Dynasty will be adding Gambler, who was a important player in terms of the Apex League, and so he'll be coming in to be another. I think he's a support backup as well.
I think that's big. I feel like NYXL has really good support mains already, so I don't know if they would want to. I mean, I don't know how good Animo is, so I can't speak to it, I guess. But I would assume, since he's a Lucio main, he would be taking the place of Jonak, who plays Zenyatta, right?
Yeah,
So
this is one of the standout players from
right,
stage
and
one,
he's
Jonak.
the Prince of Picks, as the Overwatch League
And a
commentators call
rookie.
him, and a rookie. And he's very well. Yeah, you gotta be a rookie to be good, because once you get too old, it's over. Your reactions are kind of kidding. No, but yeah, Jonak is amazing. So I don't know where this guy's gonna fit in, but I assume he's good if he's being signed to NYXL. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he might go be able to be part of new metas, as we'll see,
Yeah.
evolving after Mercy nerf.
Oh, that's true,
With
right?
that Lucio speed boost, he might also be able to give them a little bit more depth on some control maps that we might see. So team up with Pine and stuff. It might be interesting to see where he will fit in, and that's exactly the point. For me, what's interesting is Seoul didn't sign another DPS player. If they do end up signing Gambler, then their roster is full, and they don't really have a secondary star next to Fleta.
Right.
Fleta is one of the best players in Overwatch League. He's in contention for MVP of the league as it stands, but they don't have anybody that's really fitting in that secondary role as much as they want it to.
No,
So it's interesting
obviously.
that they go support.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about this game, though. I mean, one person can't carry the team. It has to be a team effort. So if Fleta's not being supported, as is obviously so, Seoul Dynasty is in 5th right now, then he's not going to be able to shine. You know what I mean? So it's true. They do need
And
some extra DPS.
it is also a good point that you bring up in terms of being supported, because we saw when Seoul faced off against the Spitfire, we didn't see Jae-hung at all.
Mm-hmm.
And their supports in that game weren't doing very well. They miscoordinated, they mistimed ults, they were getting picked off too easily against one of the better teams in the league. So it might be a signing of saying, hey, we're going to pick up this support player, and if you're not cutting the mustard, well, goodbye to you eventually.
Look,
And this leads me to my main, my topic, my section of this show that I'm very proud of. I called it Ivan's Important Question.
Lay it on me, Ivan.
My
Lay
important
it on
question to you, Julian, is: will the Shanghai Dragons win a match this stage?
I think they stand a chance to win a match, personally. If you take a look, God damn it, if you take a look at their changes that they're making, they're actually signing on people who aren't just Chinese, who clearly they're not cutting the slack. You know, they're cutting the slack off, rather. So I think, and they're signing.
You really grabbed onto that cutting the mustard.
Look, cutting mustard, cutting cheese. What's going on? No, they're making some huge changes to the roster. Signing on 4 people, that's a whole team right there. You have a DPS, a tank, 2 tanks, and a support. So it looks like they're trying to change their whole team, or the core of their team. So I think that given those changes and given how good Giguri is, I've seen some of her gameplay, and she's amazing. I'm guessing these other players are probably pretty good. So I think they stand a chance to at least beat the Florida Mayhem.
But will we see them being well integrated in this stage? I'm sure
If their
that
visa
with
issues don't get in the way, I hope so.
with enough scrims and timing and coordinating of strategies, we will see the Shanghai Dragons win one. They started to win more maps, even if they weren't winning matches altogether. They even pushed, I think, Dynasty at one point for a map. But
yeah, they won. They took a round off of Dynasty, off of the Seoul Dynasty.
Which should have been a 4-0 for Dynasty easily. So what we're going to see in Stage 2 from Shanghai Dragons, according to Julien,
Wait,
our resident analyst expert,
yes,
is a revamped roster and some new strategies. And because of this revamped roster, we will see them pick off at least one, most likely the Florida Mayhem.
You heard it here first. Hungover Gaming has the breaking news. We got this.
Yes, I tend to agree that
we have breaking news.
That we have breaking news. That the Dragons will come away with one match, but We'll see. It depends on how well they're integrating. We'll revisit this question at the mid stage mark and see who was right.
My prediction is that they win 3 matches and only 3. That's it.
3 matches, not maps, but matches.
Yes, entire games. What is the difference between a match and a map?
A map is one of the things.
They win 3 matches, I think.
Okay, for in stage 2, 3 matches. Yeah. Okay, cool. And so we are now getting into. Sorry, this show is going a little longer. We wanted to keep it about 30 minutes long. This show is a recap show for stage 1 and the break, so it will be going a bit longer. So we're going to get into now a transition to what we're looking into in stage 2. So in stage 1, we saw the dominant auto lock be none other than Mercy. The community of pro players complained. A lot of other people complained, and Mercy got a nerf. And even though the patch came out mid stage 1, they finished stage 1 with the original Mercy patch, but now they're going to enter stage 2 with the Mercy nerf and a little bit of Junkrat nerf, along with Doomfist changes and things like that, I'm pretty sure. So we're going to see some new meta. What support heroes do you think are more likely to increase and to be seen increasingly in stage 2?
Well, I think, I guess it really depends on the map. So if you take a look at, I know we're going to talk about map pool.
You can bring it in now.
So, okay, we'll combine the two. So, if you look at the map pool, it's Hanamura, Volskaya Industries, Watchpoint Gibraltar, Route 66, Kings Row, Hollywood, and Nepal. So, I think when we take a look at, say, Route 66, we're probably, I would say Mercy's still pretty powerful there. And we're not going to see too many changes. I think that we'll still have a Mercy main there. But I think on the other maps where you get sort of more closed in, such as Kings Row or even Hollywood at certain points, like the third push, the third point, and Nepal, we're going to start seeing a lot more Moira play because there are a lot of enclosed areas that Moira has the area of effect healing orb that will take over. And I think even Hanamura first point, I think she'll be very powerful as well.
Especially with the running quad tank. I think we saw that at Lunar Colony.
Absolutely.
And I think Lunar Colony and Hanamura have a lot of similarities as it comes to that first choke and holding that and pushing it through. I think we'll see some Moira Lucio combinations there along with quad tank. I think that's absolutely right. Are you excited to see more Lucio? I think he was probably one of the lower ones, and Ana as well. I think,
I don't know where Ana fits in this meta right now. Obviously she was played a lot on. Did they go to what's the level where they have it's the African level? Sorry, Numbani. Yes. Did they played Numbani, right? Yes.
Yeah. So in the first stage, Numbani
Ana was
and
always
we did
picked
see
on
Ana
map.
played on Ana
on defense at
on
least.
Numbani. Yeah.
So she's very powerful on that map, but I'm not entirely sure. She'll probably be powerful in Volskaya Industries as well, I think, because she has the high ground on both points, and I think she's powerful on Hanamura as well. If she can get in the right positions, which I'm not an Ana main, so I don't know much. I played a little bit of her, but she's been nerfed and changed a lot, so I don't really know too much about her, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think we might see some Ana play on Hollywood or Route 66, something with those a lot of different levels and having to make sure that teams are getting healed in different areas. It also maybe at Watchpoint Gibraltar in that second part of the stage where you're going through the hangar basically.
Yeah.
That might be a good Ana stage. The second point on really, because even during that last engagement between the end of the hangar and the end point, points 2 and 3, you're going to see a lot of different levels and being able to hit characters and heal them from different
I think we'll definitely get some more
lanes.
Lucio play as well on that level, specifically because there's and sorry, on King's Row, I think we're going to get more Lucio play because there's that long distance, the run back. If Zenyatta's taken out when the payload is almost reached the second point, then there's such a long distance that you have to travel from your spawn if you're on attack, and even on defense actually. You have a long distance to travel to that midpoint, which is kind of crazy. So, and Zenyatta's the worst thing when you're a Zenyatta player is getting killed in that situation, and then you just have to, oh my god, you gotta walk all or float all the way back. It's the worst.
That's why you have to meditate on why you were killed.
That's true.
What was your positioning?
that forces, it should teach you a lesson in that you need to be a better Zenyatta. Yeah, that's so. I think Shonak probably won't be playing on that level. We'll see.
Maybe on the first point, I could see some Zenny
Yeah,
picks being
on the
important
first point,
point.
Zenyatta's good, but I feel like the second point is not so hot.
So moving on from that, so what kind of metas do you think we're likely to see emerge more?
I think because now Mercy hasn't been nerfed. I can't say these words. Nursey hasn't been nerfed. Oh my god, I did it again. Well, Mercy has been nerfed, so I think we're gonna see a lot more Moira, and I think we might see third tank being picked. So I don't think quad tank might work well on Nepal, actually. I feel like in close quarters and corners, I guess, combat on some of the points in Nepal, you'll have some shield, you'll have Orisa, and then Reinhardt will be free to swing his hammer and do an area effect damage on the entire point, basically. And I can see, and with Zarya, that would be awesome. So I feel like Zarya is going to be picked on that map. And then if we throw a Moira in there, she's just healing all of them and getting her ult up incredibly quickly. Maybe even throw a Lucio there. I think it could be pretty powerful with 3. And then a Junkrat. I think Junkrat, even though he got nerfed, I think the pros are good enough.
Was it really a nerf?
I don't think it's a nerf. I think it's a nerf in terms of overall play for mine. Obviously in terms of the concussion mine, but I think the pros are good enough to know where that concussion mine is going to be. They were already being pretty accurate, I think. So it's obviously a nerf for our level of play because Junkrats need to be better now, but the pros are already pretty good, obviously. So I think he'll be fine. I think Junkrat will still be picked. So yeah.
I'm excited to see how dive comps work now, especially since you can't get those immediate 2 reses and negate the first pick. Maybe Widowmaker might be picked some more, or some Hanzo. We might see a little bit more of that because those picks that you get at the start of fights will have more consequence without that second charge on an instant res.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think we might see, as well as seeing some more tank play, I think the alternative is seeing a few more picks or quick picks set up, for instance, on King's Row. Just going Hanzo at the front of the match and then switching off to see if you can get a pick, or Widow, especially with those long corridors. That'll probably be an interesting place to see some good sniping battles. I'm excited to see how the idea of DPS and dive will change based on Mercy not being able to res as much, and how much that will help us, because I know that Overwatch League strategies have improved my gameplay tremendously.
Me too.
I've been enjoying it tremendously just based on the ability to learn and have accessible a primer, how to play Pharah, how to play Orisa.
Yeah, positioning.
Like
I think specifically positioning, it's helped me so much because I now have been inspired to play Zenyatta by Jonak. He's so amazing. So I mean, I love Pine, but I can't play DPS very well. So, but I mean, Zenyatta has to be pretty accurate as well. So it's helping a lot with my aim to play Zenyatta, and positioning with Jonek's positioning is usually pretty amazing. So I like popping around corners and getting those charge shots. It's very satisfying.
And your Zenyatta play has improved tremendously.
Yeah.
And I've personally, I think I've
Thank
gotten a lot better with Farah and
absolutely.
Orisa, and with my Widowmaker, because I know which maps she's more likely to function better on.
Mm-hmm.
So I've appreciated, and I've seen tremendously how much your Zenyatta play has just like been on point, and also Diva play. So I enjoyed that. We're going to have some Overwatch replays still coming up in this season, or in this stage or whatever, along with these. So we'll be breaking down some of our game footage, or maybe even some pro footage, to still give you those tips and tricks, and take the lessons that we're learning from our own games and from pro play, and see how they can be applied, especially at like our SR level, because we don't group up as much as a team in our SR level.
And
so
also, don't forget, you can send in your footage too if you'd like us to look at your game, and I think that would be pretty cool. I don't know about you, Yvonne, but if we could review some viewers' footage, that would be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I guess we'll end it here with what your game of the week for Stage 2 Week 1 is.
Well, I'll tell you. Do you want to go first, or I can go first? Or
you can go first.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll tell you, Yvonne, we have a rematch coming up. I'll tell you. It's on the game is going to be played at 7 p.m. on Friday, February 23rd, the first game of the night. It's going to be London Spitfire versus NYXL. I'm very, very excited to see this, because I really, really want to know if Pine is ready to be let out of the cage. Is he going to destroy them on Nepal? Is he going to destroy them on Nepal? I really want to see it, but I feel like that might be a tiebreaker match. We'll see. But I think, and I guess he would play Volskaya Industries as well. So I'm excited to see the rematch, London Spitfire. I want NYXL to win, obviously, from New York, and I really like Pine. So what more do you want? It's going to be an exciting match. These are the top two dogs in the league so far, coming out of the first stage. So they're ready to flex their muscles and see what this new meta is all about.
Yeah. In line with that, I have one that's probably worth watching, and one that's probably just of interest to me. So my one that's probably worth watching and should be my pick, but it's not going to be my pick, is another rematch from the stage finals, which is the Houston Outlaws versus the London Spitfire, which is again the Thursday 7 p.m. Eastern match. And these are two great teams going against each other. And they were second and third first and third, I guess, in terms of the finals of Stage 1. But they had that playoff game coming into the stage finals. And Spitfire took it, but previously in that same day, they had played each other as well, and Houston took it. So these two teams are very close in terms of being able to match up each other really well, and we'll see how Linkser is able to come back from being taken out in the last game. Anyway, the other one that I'm really excited for, and this is just a personal choice, is Dallas Fuel versus the Shanghai Dragons.
No, I'm excited for that game too, man. It's going to be crazy.
Day 1 of Stage 2, Week 1. That is today when this gets released at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll see how the new look Shanghai Dragons, will they be a new look? I don't think so.
I think so, man. I think they're gonna win. I think they can do it, man. I'm rooting for them.
Will the Shanghai Dragons
underdog
be able to sneak one of these matches away from Dallas Fuel, who were struggling in the last stage, or will Dallas Fuel actually find themselves together?
It's gonna be exciting.
XQC is back, AKM is on the team, so we'll see some new looks, new strategies, new maps, and will be
probably
fun.
A lot of yelling from XQC.
Absolutely a lot of yelling, because the team is is happy with him. I don't know that.
Who
sure.
knows?
In any case, it starts off tonight, Wednesday, February 21st at 7 p.m. with a good match of Seoul Dynasty versus the LA Valiant. If we could have more than one match pick, because I kind of cheated this week. If we can keep having more than one, this is another one, great one to watch. I'm sure that's why it starts the schedule. This is one of the toughest teams in Seoul Dynasty versus the number 4 finisher in the Stage 1 standings. So we'll see how this stage goes in the coming weeks. I'll be excited to see how these teams are performing, especially with new signings. Did we get those trades off? I hope maybe. And we'll leave you with that. Julian, you got anything else?
When and how are people going to be able to get this show? Is it going to be in audio form as well on our podcast, or are we going to have a separate podcast? I want to know. I want to know from my. I want to know. I want to listen to this. I'm kidding.
We're definitely going to be putting this up on YouTube in its video form, and we'll figure out whether we can get these up on audio form as a supplemental for our podcast.
We can put it in on our podcast on SoundCloud if you guys want. Tell us in the comment section below, actually, if you want this in audio form. But I think we'll just do video for now, just so it's easier.
Yeah. So we'll do video for now. If y'all want the audio portion, please let us know in the comments down below. Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in to group up with me.
Yeah, this was very exciting. Catch you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.